It's lunch with Jim and Aaron.
It is. I'm Slouchy McSloucherson today.
That's what Lwj&A stands for. I don't know if people are aware of that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, maybe not.
I didn't even know. Wow. Lunch with Jim and Aaron. What do you got to talk about? I've almost got too much to talk about.
Yeah, I was moments ago reading an article about SoundCloud, and it screwed up my whole thought process. What do you have to talk about today?
So I don't know if I reported back on my plans to do the river raft adventure on Lunch with Jim and Aaron, but as I mentioned, Cecily and I went in for $60. We could buy this 3-pack of river tubes off Amazon, and what we do is we go. There's a river access about a half-mile from our house to the Little Miami River. We go down there, we call a lift, and we have our rafts and everything packed into like these collapsible IKEA bags, and we have them take us up a couple miles upriver and drop us off, and we jump in the river and away we go. The interesting thing is the last 2 weekends, the Little Miami has been at flood stage. So it's like a really, really fast-moving river, and it's arguable that it was dangerous. I don't know. All of the canoe and kayak places weren't renting kayaks to people.
What?
I never thought my life was in jeopardy, but I also like.
Why is that?
I think so. Fast-moving water and stationary objects are a well-known death trap, and you cross several bridges, and if you were foolish enough to let yourself get like pinned against the pylon of a bridge, or if there was a tree down blocking a major part of the river and you allowed yourself to get caught in that, you would probably drown. So I think that's why they don't, when the river's at flood stage, they don't do that. And then what I was doing to make it safer for my family, again, I'm taking a 10-year-old in this, is, we just, anytime there's a blind bend in the river, we'd pull to the side and kind of like peek around it to see if there's trees down or whatever. And then we just gave the bridges wide berth. But we didn't have any problems. We flipped it because there's this one like standing wave that probably is 5 foot tall from trough to crest. I'm telling you, dude, I wish.
Where was that?
Right. There is, I forget what the nature preserve is. But that's where we dropped off the first week, and it is probably only there at flood stage. But it would be super fun. I can't even
conceive of it on that.
There's like the half-mile stretch that's just like way more violent than you would than I've ever seen anything on the Little Miami River. And I think it would actually be fun to like go up there with a kayak if it was in flood stage.
Yeah, I need to go.
Yeah, if I ever get a kayak. But so that and so we did like a 7-mile trip, and the water's going fast, and we got done in like under 4 hours. So the next weekend we are emboldened to do add 3 more miles to that. I don't know whether we just goofed around too much because every time there's a rope swing on the river we stop and do the rope swing, and we snack and some stuff. But like it was getting to where it was getting late because I'm like, well, as long as I'm home by 9 o'clock, we don't have to worry about being home. We got on the river like at noon, and it was getting like 7 o'clock, and we were still a ways away. So like, I tied a rope around like my waist and was like power stroking I was actually swimming, like freestyle swimming to get us home that much faster. And this last weekend we barely made it home in time. Like I literally came in dripping wet to the house, put on some dry clothes, and sat down just as the HBO logo faded from the screen for. But the other thing that happened is I was trying to demonstrate to Jack because in between rapids, Jack would do this thing where he called it his EVA because he's been playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program where he jumps off the raft and he goes swims around. But he was having trouble getting back on the big tube, so I was demonstrating proper technique that you got to kind of like dip down and then kick real hard and push up real hard. And when I was kicking, there was a submerged rock about 5 foot underneath, and I kicked that rock as hard as I could and bruised my heel. And holy plantar fasciitis, Batman! I've been hobbling around all week.
Yeah, that sounds like it sucks.
But it was fun. Like so now it's like the thing me and Cess are trying to figure out is like how far as a river recedes from its springtime flood stage, how far up the river can we comfortably float down without like being there for fucking 10 hours. But that's fun, and I recommend that if you live next to a river and you don't want to pay $45 a kayak per person, floating down a river tube is pretty fun.
Okay.
We pack a cooler. We actually got for $15 the same company. These are like I think it's called Intex, Intex. If you search on Google for river tube, it's like or Amazon, it's like the first result. But for $15 they sell this mega chiller, which is like essentially a floater for your cooler. Mm-hmm. So we put our cooler and our dry bag in that has like our sunscreen and our like like food and clothes and all that stuff, and it's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
They all connect. The connectors are really nice, and like they're these kind of like semi-bayonet style, so you just put them together and they click, and then they're like a really solid connection, and then they're really quick to unhook.
I assumed you were doing some kind of makeshift connection. I didn't know they had it built in.
That had and
cool.
I brought to the second time because it allows you to float like 3 feet apart from each other, which was a little bit much for some of the parts we do. So I bought some extra line at a hardware store, so now we can like float up to 15 feet apart from each other.
Oh.
But that was cool. And then the other thing that was kind of neat this Wednesday, because Wednesday is kind of like my off day to spend time with my son because I got him this half of the summer. He was watching YouTube the night before, and he had like fallen in love with this YouTuber that builds like remote controlled vehicles out of just junk. Mm-hmm. Like he'll take 2 2-liter Coke bottles and hot glue them together and mount 2 propellers to them and make like a little hydro boat, and he made like a little tractor, and Jack was like really impressed with that, and I'm like, fuck that, we'll make an airplane, dude. Mm-hmm. So Wednesday we went down to the basement, and I just have this enormous amount of like RC aircraft stuff because I used to be big into this like 15 years ago. And I have a whole bunch of like spare construction foam. So we whipped up like a stealth style Delta wing kind of plan. I let him like draw, like I said, look, I'll do the wing and the control surfaces, you do the cockpit. So he like drew out like an outline of a cockpit and with a dude sitting in it, and we knocked it together. It was about a 3-hour project, and we took it to the local baseball diamond, was flying it around, and he was like super impressed.
Nice.
And I was too, because I was worried that the batteries, because they're LiPo batteries, and they've been sitting there in this toolbox for like 10 plus years. Uh-huh. And I swear to God, those Thunder Power Packs from Castle Creations, I'm not even sure if they're still in business, but those things are tanks because they charged right away, held a charge. I got a 10, 15 minutes of flight out of either pack. I was really super impressed, but that was fun too. I think we might start building some more large scale, more complicated things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
he seems to
Zeppelins. You gonna build a 4th scale Zeppelin?
I have built a remote control.
Have you?
Yeah, I've just about anything. I've gotten helicopters. I built like I talk on the Dunkirk. I built a Spitfire. I built like a 6-foot wingspan P-38 with twin engines.
That's big.
Yeah, it was really big, and it's like all kinds of different stuff. And I did build this blimp. Yeah, it's fun. With the guy, so I used to be part of this RC Indy remote controlled plane association, and the head of the association was the guy that actually flew the official like fan cam blimp at the Colts games.
Okay.
In the dome.
Nice.
So he had a lot of like expertise about that thing. And I'm like, well, shit, why not? That sounds like a cool idea. So the Dirty Little Secrets is you don't even have to fill those with helium or anything.
What do you fill them with?
Air. Like you get a big enough balloon with fins on it and motors, like it'll naturally sink. But think about like if you have a 6-foot balloon, think how slow like a big concert style beach ball descends, and then now make it out of thinner material, lighter material, and it has a little bit of lift from its engines. Like you don't need helium or hydrogen or. Because the other thing is then you'd have to worry about you'd have to make it neutrally buoyant because you don't want it to like
fly into the atmosphere.
Yeah, I ran out of batteries and now I just lost $500 worth of gear. So, but yeah, that was my week. That and Game of Thrones.
There was one other development in your week.
What's that?
That we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
We hit the number 1 spot in the iTunes charts. You're now listening to the number 1 podcasters for at least a day.
Yeah,
I think it lasted a whole day.
Yeah,
that's what I recall.
Oh, wait until we have the we have the spoiler instant take stranglehold over the weekend.
Right.
We might be able to take the top spot for the whole weekend.
Yeah, we were number 1 until Malcolm Gladwell released his latest podcast, and I don't know, Locked Up Abroad did theirs or whatever. But yeah, that was super cool. I was blown away by it.
Did you ever think? Yeah, blown away is a good word to use. Did you ever think in a million years that we would have the top overall spot on iTunes?
No, this is stupid. I find it hard to believe. Even staring at it, like looking at my app, I'm like, are they just showing this to me because this is my podcast? They want me to feel good.
Right.
I'm like, because we're at this point, it being number one, I guess we're more popular than every other podcast at that.
Yeah, it's not even
day.
just because I remember when.
But I'm thinking like the ones that I listen to. How can I possibly be more popular than them? They're way better than we are.
I know. As of right now, our Game of Thrones 701 cast has got 480,000 downloads.
God.
Now, I remember when we thought we got like 300,000 was inconceivable last year.
It was.
But it's stupid, and I can't wait to do like pretty soon we'll be doing an Empire Business podcast to kind of like analyze this traffic and its resultant bump to memberships, and then kind of like now that we've actually got some news to report to show like what that's going. But yeah, it's like, man, this. We were both skeptical that there'd be this much growth. Just that, like, not just us, but like, how can Game of Thrones really triple its audience year over year? Can we then triple our audience? Like, where's the saturation point? But like, I mean, you were saying at the beginning, like on the date, on Wednesday, like you wouldn't be surprised if we got 1 million downloads a week by the end, and I thought that was ludicrous, but.
I mean, so if we're at 480 right now,
we're
what, 3 days out
right
from the publish of the podcast?
Right. We'll hit 600,000 before the next one comes out.
Right. Our traffic patterns over the course of last year were pretty obviously growth. I mean, we started at somewhere around 100,000. We ended the season somewhere around 300 and 300 plus.
Right.
So if you extrapolate to this year and say, okay, this podcast just got 500,000 downloads, grow that by 3 times over the course of the season, and we could be looking at like 1.5 million on the first week of an episode.
Yeah.
It's staggering. I don't know how. I still like struggle to comprehend the idea that we could ever hit 1 million downloads in a week of a single podcast.
But you can see it like snowball, like the fact that like
that's the thing.
When like we're starting to get like press about this, the convention, you go to Reddit and at least once a week there's someone asking about good Game of Thrones podcasts, and we're guaranteed to be not only mentioned but usually one of the higher upvoted ones, and like all the iTunes reviews. And now that we're in like you go into iTunes landing, like just open up iTunes and we're fucking there.
Yeah.
And our logo says Game of Thrones and people like a Game of Thrones podcast. That like it's the growth potential is enormous and exciting. And the question is, how do you capture these people and get them interested in the other stuff? You like this good television, what?
Yeah.
And it's also kind of cool that we'll have season 2 to kind of stretch out the season a little bit, and then we'll only have about 3 months, and then Westworld comes out.
Right.
And I'm wondering how much, because the other thing is we had an unusual amount of year-over-year growth, and I wonder how much of that was like, we had 150-ish thousand people listening to Westworld, and a lot of those, we know were new fans. And I wonder, like, I imagine if you like Westworld, that you like Game of Thrones and like that. So it's like almost like we probably drug half of that audience back over.
Could have.
And now, like if we can take this audience and dump it back like another bucket into West, like
that's
Jesus.
the thing. Success breeds success. That was the thought that I had. Like
we
almost
talked about
immediately.
This, yes.
Like when I go on and I see, okay, we're number one. That is freaking amazing. I never thought it would happen. But then I look at all the things that people are saying, right? They're on Twitter saying, hey, one of my favorite podcasts is number one on iTunes. Check them out. Like,
yes,
they're out there doing the advertising work for us simply because we're popular, not because we're good or anything.
Like, and
just because we're popular.
And what's hilarious is this is all nice and it's great. I don't know that this insane like snowballing growth is going to be a key to. I'm trying to. God, how do I articulate this? I guess what I'm saying is, as a startup, I really could have used some of this free multipliers 2 years ago, and by the time we kind of almost don't need it because we're stable. We're not rolling in it, but we're stable. By the time you're like get this success that like it just starts.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. Like
it's like Kanye West probably hasn't paid for a meal in God knows how long, but he probably when he was not making any money, he had to pay for all his meals.
Right.
It's like, why lavish all these bonuses on people that don't need it? It's kind of it's a crazy cultural thing.
Yeah, I think back, how long have we been doing this now? For 8 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Aside from the audio quality, I don't think our podcasts have changed all that much. Our TV podcasts.
No.
I think we maybe have gotten a little bit better, but I can think of like, okay, there are probably podcasters out there right now starting to do exactly what we're doing.
Right.
And they might actually be better at it than us.
Yeah.
More entertaining, more informed, better formats, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they have, just like we had 7 years ago, just this built-in disadvantage of being unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're right. At this point, we don't need all that extra publicity. They
Right.
kind of need it way more
Right.
than us.
Right.
But it just takes, I guess, this is why, everybody says it takes perseverance and hard work to get
And
anywhere,
luck, because and
tons of luck.
Like
yeah.
I think we've certainly worked at this and treated it professionally since day one, and we made a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work to get here, but also we kind of won whatever cosmic lottery there is that we got. We decided to do this right at the right time, right when there was an absence of competition. When competition started getting fierce, we already had we waited a year, we wouldn't have made it,
right?
Or if we started a year early, maybe the traffic wouldn't be there, and we just like, well,
quit.
this is another stupid thing. Let's go on to do whatever. And
Yeah,
it's I don't know, life's a funny thing, man.
it is.
It's a funny thing, and I got my dad, who has not given one shit about any of the podcasts I've ever done, except for when Jack will record one with me. He listens to those. He was excited, saying that he's like, yeah, he's like, he saw it on like some of my friends and family, they were talking about it on Facebook, and he called and was expressed kind of like amazement and surprise, and I can tell my dad's a little giddy on my behalf, and so even my dad sits up and says, "Oh, you're number one, not in TV and film overall. Wow,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, it's legitimate to say for that day we were the most popular podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, when you're
mind.
getting 500,000 downloads in less than a week, that's pretty rarefied air.
That's like Mark Maron interviewing the president.
Right, I mean, seriously, if we get to
what is wrong with you people?
I know, if we get to
that was way more important.
If we get 2 million downloads, that we will. Wasn't that his mark?
I think it was like 900, a million, something like that. Yeah,
in a week. So I mean, yeah. It's neat, and I don't know where because we always debate this, and it's kind of like I've always been through a school of thought that it's crazy to bet against a trend until you see evidence that trend is weakening. But it's always hard when you're sitting down and planning stuff in a year to okay, we'll just pencil in 300% growth. Why not? Sure.
Happened last year, can happen again. Because at some point there is a ceiling.
Right.
But you just never know when that ceiling's going to hit.
Right. And the other thing, have we released the Empire Cast on the advertising?
That's coming out next week.
Because here's
advertising?
Yeah.
No, next week.
Okay. Because already an addendum to that is we've sold 11 ad slots? Or is it 10?
8.
Or it's 8. It's 8 ad slots.
Right. This is the other thing.
And we're still getting offers are rolling in on the daily now, and all these offers, also all these offers to collaborate. My inbox is blown up with companies reaching out and all this stuff because they see
right.
hit top 10 on. But I mean that's almost $27,000 of ad revenue. And stuff is still coming in, and we're selling other slots. So
it's like a month and a half.
This is the bonanza we were waiting for, and hopefully all signs look like it's translating in the club sales.
Yeah, I hope so. I actually reached out to a whole bunch of people
right
the day that we were number one. I'm like, there will never be a better opportunity than right now.
Right, we have these next 7 or 8 weeks to we've got instant credibility for if people want to know whether and now's the time to hit people up for screeners and try to push our.
I'm doing all that.
Yep.
All of it. Ads, screeners. Just establish relationships with people who are doing this that I'm impressed with. Yeah,
and there's a couple other things that we haven't talked about. There's some behind the scenes kind of being more taken seriously as a critic. I don't want to say any more about that, but we're trying to maximize. We're trying to maximize the success breeds success thing. I'm actually trying to get up and see how much money in club sales we've made this month so far.
Oh.
Wow, almost 19,000 in the first 20 days.
Yeah.
Which our previous high mark was like 10,600. So that's the thing is like we were hoping our projections were making like 30,000 ish in the first month of Game of Thrones and like 45,000 ish in the next month. So
yeah, I'm still dubious on those.
well, but I
just
mean,
because
are you going to be dubious when the club sale reaches 1 million people? I mean, I mean,
agree. If we hit 30 grand this month,
right,
I'll still be dubious on increasing it next month because there's no
we're not
sale.
having a sale.
Yeah. And we've signed up a large bulk of people who.
But the $30,000 ads is going to,
yeah,
like
that
that's
helps
going to be
tremendously.
nice. And that's what I said. Like once we get all these funds and package it up as an Empire podcast,
then we're looking at maybe finally getting the app going. Like, that's priority number one.
That's the other part of the success breeds success. Like I feel like that app is going to be really crucial in and making the club successful. So anyway, have we broken our arm jerking ourselves off?
Yeah.
Yet? Like mine's starting to get sore.
Right. I'm good. And because I'm number one on iTunes, I'm looking for a new car. No, that's not why. My car's been giving me trouble trouble lately. It's old. I'm trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Thinking about ditching it. Getting something new but cheap.
Well,
like
when's your Tesla rolling off the line?
My Tesla's not going to be out I have no illusions that it's going to be out mid next year like they say.
Really?
Because they have orders of 400,000. I'm probably somewhere in the 300,000s in the queue.
Okay.
Because I'm like, why would you they're producing 5,000 this year. I'm like, you're not going to produce another 250,000 of these things next year. No freaking way. And even if you do, I'm not getting mine until 2019 at least. So I'm going to get a 2-year lease.
You need a gap car.
Right. Because I don't want to keep pumping money into this thing. I've put like $4,000 or $5,000 into this car in the last 3 years.
There gets a point where an old car becomes more of a money pit, also the thing is like an old car is great until it's no longer dependable and reliable. Like I talk shit about my Vibe because I don't like that car, but it's reliable as the day is long, man. Like other than the air conditioner I had to fix and like getting it serviced every 60,000, 75,000 miles. Yeah, like it's been oil and gas. That's the only thing I have to do on it, and tires.
Mine's been a lot of suspension stuff, which has cost me a bunch of money. So I'm looking to get rid of that, get something like under $200 a month on a lease.
Oh,
so
that's
probably like low
idea.
end, like a Civic or
I
actually went and test drove a Mazda 3, which
I like
nice.
Yeah, that's the new version of Protege, which is one of the most reliable cars I've ever had.
And it feels nice and sporty. Like they're drivers' cars.
Yeah. Sure. The Mazdas are always fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind getting like a 3 or 5 series hatchback. I thought those were kind of cool, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Cool for a nerd like me.
Looking for that. The other thing I got, not to celebrate, just because I wanted one and they were back in stock, Nintendo Switch.
Oh,
I got one. Yeah, I got Zelda. I've been playing that.
How many hours you got into the Breath of the Wild?
Maybe 6 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten taken on your first dungeon or underworld?
Yeah, the shrines.
So I'm assuming that this Zelda has like some kind of underworld that you go up to and you go downstairs and you beat a boss and you get a weapon.
If it does, I haven't gotten there yet.
So maybe these shrines are the underworld parts.
I don't know, because shrines are kind of like these little mini levels, mini dungeons, I'd call them, which are a room or two. It's definitely not a dungeon where you go and they give you a new power to kind of teach you how to use it, and then you have that power after you escape the shrine. So I've done like 5 or 6 of those, maybe more. I don't know. It's a lot of fun so far. The open world feel of it is really good. The thing I like about it most, I think, is being able to climb anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to Skyrim, and I thought like, okay, well, it's gonna. When they say climb anything, they mean like Skyrim, where you can kind of walk up and find the little lip that you can stand on. No, this is just straight up climbing, like gripping on. You can be hanging upside down, climbing up a 90-degree.
Is there an obvious wall. So when you say climb, literally anything, any surface,
anything,
it doesn't matter. Like
there are special surfaces in the shrines that you can't climb,
unclimbable. Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, I can climb anything: trees, houses,
just straight up. Don't even have to look. You don't have to look for handholds, or there's handholds everywhere.
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
Nope,
that's
just
crazy.
climb it. It's all limited by your stamina.
Yeah.
So as long as you have stamina, you can continue to climb. Once you run out of stamina, you fall.
Yeah.
If you're swimming, you run out of stamina, you drown.
Right.
It's really dark, creepy, like weird, bad animation when Link drowns, because you're just like, ugh! And then you just fall over limp in the water and float there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
That's the other thing
a lot of fun.
that I haven't talked about, and I haven't played a lot of it because of all the other stuff I got going on. But the Destiny 2 beta dropped, and I guess it's an open beta now.
Yeah.
So anyone's got a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox, PC open beta is in the end of August, but they can go and download the demo and kick the tires on it. And it's cool. It's cool. I don't know, like yeah, I'll see if anyone asks any questions about it before I give my opinions on it, because we've already talked a long time and we got a whole bunch of shit to talk about.
And we have a time limit today.
Yes, we do. For all until the end of Game of Thrones, we're probably on a strict 1 hour time limit on these things. So,
yeah.
Let's see. I promised to go back to this question from JLeave382 last week. Have you guys ever thought about concepts for your own TV show? And I don't mean in form of quit your pitching. The reason I ask is I've always considered making a web series, but always seem to have trouble coming up with good concepts. Do you have any advice?
Before we answer this,
yes.
I had brought in something to celebrate.
Oh,
our number one
right.
iTunes
right.
Thing, and I don't think I have any cups at this point, which is problematic.
Okay, I have one.
You've got one?
I've got one.
All right.
I've got the, is this the Forest Moon of Endor?
I'm going to have to go wash one real quick. You want to talk about Destiny
sure.
or something?
All right, I can
take
this. I can try to one-man this question about the pitching thing.
Okay.
Then I'll fill you in. So, yeah, we've taken a stab, like the beginning of last year in one of our dead periods, we challenged ourselves to come up, because we had been kicking around this idea that was an animated series that was like loosely based on Rick and Carl's relationship in The Walking Dead, that we were going to use to use the zombie apocalypse to explore some of the things from our childhood and like growing up in a cult and like post-apocalyptic cults and things that we were excited about. And a couple things happened with that. Number one, it's just really like that's a full-time job, coming up with concepts and fleshing them out and coming up with characters and writing scripts. And we ran out of slow period time to do it, and then it just stalled. And the other thing is Rick and Morty came out, which was ours felt very derivative once we saw that. And also, like, Rick and Morty is just really, really awesome. It's just Rick and Morty is amazing, and it was kind of demoralizing that was going to be perceived as competition. I know that so I talked about some of the stuff that we've done together, but also, like, I know that you had at some point between you getting thrown out of the witnesses and us reconnecting that you had taken a stab. Oh, the other thing is, remember when there was that open, like, some atheist organization did some kind of contest where, like, pitch a 30-minute secular, like, themed comedy series, like an episode, a pilot episode, and we're like, well, shit, we're atheists and we're podcasters, like that's all, and we're living together, like we're already halfway there to a pilot, and we took a stab, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
It does, yeah, especially that development process.
Yeah,
where you don't have characters yet, you don't have a plot.
Right. Yeah. Like I recently got the Rick and Morty DVDs or the Blu-rays that have all the commentaries for the episodes, and you might want to borrow those because they're also a class on the creative process. Like Justin and Dan are talking about how they come up with the concepts and like how for much of the time their work is indistinguishable from a room full of people just fucking around. Because they're just, exploring concepts and having fun and trying to crack each other up. And then, like, you have all this, just unrelated shit that you then start breaking, like they call it, like there's like you actually breaking in A and B plots and
break the
exactly. And then like, oh, this story is harder to break than others. And also just how like relentless they are as criticism. Like one example was they almost, what was that? During an interdimensional cable episode where, Jerry had, one of the reality timelines, Jerry had become famous. And there's this like this one of the interdimensional cable shows is a commercial for this like essentially a Weekend at Bernie's spoof with a dead cat lady, and the cats are like inside her body, actually running her as a marionette, and she falls in love with like a Mary Sue for Jerry. And Dan and Justin were talking about how like they were talking about scrapping that because it was so hacky. Like even though they recognize that they go to the pop culture well too much, and like, this is just us making fun of Weekend at Bernie's. And they decided to keep it in when they came up with the idea that this would be a movie that Jerry had used his star power to make and produce and direct. And like, oh, that's actually a fun, like, it can be hacky and dumb and stupid because that's what Jerry would do. Right. And then it's like it comes back in, but like, man, it's like, I thought the premise, even without Jerry directing and producing it, was funny enough, but they just like, I just wonder how much shit is like on the cutting room floor because they're like, nah, we just don't have the confidence to do it. But and then you took a run at coming up with a workplace comedy script.
Yeah, it's essentially like The Office in an IT office. I don't think it was anything special, but I did actually write a full episode of it.
Right.
It was, that was a long time ago, man.
Was that an IT company, or was that BuzzFeed or
BuzzFeed?
Not BuzzFeed.
No,
Buzztronics.
Yeah, where I was working at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was loosely based on the office environment there. But yeah, I mean, I've written partial scripts, like treatments for Always Sunny, and like I've done a little bit of like creative writing. I've done some NaNoWriMo stuff, but like developing, I don't have any advice for developing your own stuff because I've never done it. And I've done it, but I've never done it successfully.
The only advice was just to start doing it and work on it and make yourself work on it and keep on it and like treat it like it's your, treat it like it's your hobby. Like if you would normally come home and watch 3 or 4 hours of television, do 3 or 4 hours of developing your characters, your scripts, and force yourself to do that and discipline to spend a daily incremental effort towards it. That's the key to doing anything.
Yeah.
But it seems funny, and my weakness is I don't have confidence. Like, I get to a certain point in a project where I'm just like, well, this is a bunch of hacky bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I'm aware of all my influences. Instead of calling them influences, I just see all the thievery that I'm doing and like how intellectually dishonest it is and how I don't really have anything I'm saying. And it's just like, and I'm just like, so why even bother?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, oh, well, I'm just essentially doing the Office set in an IT context. And then fucking Silicon Valley comes out and you're like, well, I guess I could have done that. I guess like that's a perfectly valid thing to do. So
yeah.
That's our shitty advice for you there. All right, moving on to new business. Do you have any tweeters?
I got some business. in a bottle.
Give me the business. Oh yes, give me that business.
So this is
what?
If you people were around for a Christmas event, you might remember this booze. It was the number 1 Jim and Aaron rated.
Is this the Invergordon 50 year
from that? What is it called? Advent calendar of booze we did last year.
Yeah.
So this is a 25-year Invergordon whiskey, Scotch, and they were selling it. So I really wanted to get a bottle. I searched high and low for it and couldn't find it. And I emailed the company and said,
the legend of this was there was like a few barrels found in some factory that were 50 years old.
Yeah, 25 years old.
25 years old.
And they pulled them out. They did a small sample run of them in that Advent calendar. We tasted it. I emailed them and was like, hey, can I get some of this? When can I get it? Where can I get it? And turns out they were doing a small batch run of it like a week later. And they said, watch the website. And they put up the description of it with a different picture. And I was very confused. And I emailed them again trying to make sure it was all right. But this is it. This is the Invergordon 25 year. Oh, God. That's a real shit show.
Here, give me it because for whatever reason, my camera seems to... Yeah, it's a technical diagram of a still, and it says single grain Scotch whiskey, that boutique whiskey company. It doesn't. Oh, it's distilled at Invergordon Distillery.
Yeah, that boutique whiskey company takes whiskeys that they find at like small batch whiskeys from other distilleries or from distilleries because they're not a distillery themselves.
Right.
And they repackage it and sell it.
Yeah. But there you go.
So I picked up 4 bottles of this. I thought it was going to be, I was like, I will pay up to $250 for a bottle of this.
Right.
Turns out they were $50 each. And
So
I'm
you
like,
bought $250 worth.
essentially, yeah, with shipping from God knows where. Yeah.
Right.
So I picked up 4 bottles of it. One of them was intended to be a wedding gift for you and Cecily, but I don't know when that ceremony or that reception is going to happen. So that's yours.
All right.
We're going to open this other one though to drink from here on the show
For celebration.
to celebrate
hitting
number
the top,
1 on iTunes.
hitting the top iTunes.
Because if you don't celebrate, then I don't know when you celebrate as
That's
a podcaster.
true. And sometimes I feel like that's one of our weaknesses is we tend to give more credence to our setbacks than we do the good times.
Yeah, I'm always just worried about like what's next. I want to take a moment to appreciate what we've got,
Yeah.
as opposed to just what do we do with it and what's next.
Right.
So I'm gonna pour some of this.
Do you want, while you're pouring that, do you want me to go with the first question here on the forums?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, Steve Otts. First time here. Hope you first week back to Game of Thrones grind has been fun. It has. Have either of you listened to Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast? I'm interested to hear what you think of his advertising style. If you're unaware, he gets quite a few reads, but he doesn't take them seriously at all, to the point where he openly mocks the copy provided as well as their business practices.
Yeah, that's just Bill Burr's style, man.
It ends up making ads one of the best parts of the podcast and actually makes you want to listen to them, which is why I guess he still gets plenty of ads to read. All right.
You didn't have to describe this, because you could just say Bill Burr reading ads and I would know exactly what it is.
And Dan Harmon does the same thing. Like Cheers, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh,
That is
yeah.
so fucking smooth.
That is still. Yep. Okay. Worth every penny. I was worried.
I was worried too, because I'm like, some of those lunches we were pretty drunk on, and like, you know,
that's so good though.
But yeah, that's fantastic.
It's sweet. It's smoky. It's very smooth.
It's the perfect scotch. I'm so
Sweet,
and you
smoky, and
can't.
smooth.
There will never be more of that.
Can't get any more of it.
So
that's why I bought 4 bottles.
So make it stretch it.
And this is the first time I've opened any of it.
Right.
These. So I realized that I absentmindedly opened one of the bottles when I first got it in. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I opening this? This is like a special once a year, if that often kind of thing. So
do you remember how by the end of that year we had like balls of that wax that are like the size of softballs? It was. Are we going to do that
still
again?
Have yours?
I don't think. I think I threw it because it got nasty.
Yeah.
Once I got to get cutting it, it was, and also it was tearing my like little ledger thing here up. It was like because it was so sticky that it was pulling the leather off of the surface.
It was tearing my thumbs up. I had
Really?
like blisters on my thumbs from molding it.
Anyway, back to Bill Burr. So a couple people do this, and I wonder how long they're gonna. Because like, that's one thing. Like when I hear Dan Harmon and he goes like for a 10-minute epic MeUndies rant, where he doesn't, and the Crooked Media guys do this too, where they critique the ad reads and all this stuff. And I wonder how long, because I've been noticing in our ads that the manufacturers seem to be getting more and more like locked down, where these points must be and do not do this and do not. And if you do, you'll have to do a makeup ad. And I wonder, I mean, I'm with you, Steve. I think those reads are more effective. As long as the guy's not like, I guess, shitting on the product and he's just making fun of their stuffy advertising, and he is like, has been, gotten famous as being kind of an iconoclast or like a guy who takes down that kind of stuff. I think it's more effective. But corporations don't necessarily always care about things that are effective. Like think about how many restaurants turned down Breaking Bad for a restaurant scene before Denny's said, yes, you can come in and, show up and we'll be associated. Like, that's so stupid.
Right.
Like, anybody's going to think like, oh, I can't go to fucking Shoney's because meth kingpins and New Mexico, I almost said Arizona, and I lost all my cred, might show up there. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
No, it's like, it's like, it's cool. It's part of the zeitgeist. Oh, this is I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. Do they talk, like, guys like Dan Harmon, do they talk about their personal experience with the
product? Like
because that's one of the stipulations. You have to
yes
discuss your personal experience with
yes. He talks about how his dogs love to eat the crotches out of his MeUndies. So dogs prefer 2 to 1. Like it's always stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So
if you're not going to buy him to wear, then buy him as dog toys.
Right. And he always like says stuff like, and you can if it's risk free. So like if you don't like the MeUndies, which you will, you can say and you keep them. You have to send them back. So also subtext free underwear.
Right.
All you gotta do is say you don't. You just have to lie and say you hate their underwear, and you get free underwear.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not clearly our ad style has been slightly irreverent, but it's getting harder to do that with the risk, like with the demands that they're making, and I don't know. I'm kind of bummed out that I feel like I'm getting a little bit shackled. I'm still not like being forced to say something I don't agree with. But it's more like I would rather have like a little fun discussion about my experience of the product rather than going through your fucking bullet points that, to my knowledge, is not any reason why people buy your product.
I mean, one way to do it is which I think the McElroys kind of do on their shows, is to kind of do the bullet points, but then have a separate discussion that's funnier, or they kind of turn the personal experience thing into something a little funnier, and they just blaze through the bullet points, like 100% money back guarantee, 90-day trial, like all those things, and then they talk about.
I think that feels like after this week's ad read, that feels like that's what we're going to do too. Like,
probably
get all the stuff that you have to do out of the way, and then have fun
even
with
tell
it.
people like, look, this is obligatory. Here's the things they want you to know. Here's what I want you to know.
Then the next one will be like no mention of obligatory bullet points.
Right. Do not discuss Fight Club.
Right. All right, you got any tweeters?
Yeah, we do.
Hashtag bald lunch.
Okay, that doesn't apply to Lunch Jim and Aaron. Bias File says, is everything on the table with the spoiler cast, like spoils of show production or only book-related topics?
I'm going to start the show with a blanket announcement for this.
Yeah.
No, we do not consider leaks valid spoilers.
And I actively avoid them.
Yeah,
as much as possible.
And I'm trying to avoid them too. It's like I said, I will be surprised if I can get through this. If nothing else, some troll will probably be to send them to me in all bold and and I'm pretty good at like, I've kind of got this technique where I read without absorbing an email to number one, protect, because that happened to me quite a bit in the beginning of my career, and also just to kind of rapidly absorb the gist, like, oh, this is another email about Arya wearing a certain face to fulfill a certain prophecy. I've already gotten 20 of those next kind of things. And that kind of reading without absorbing protects me from a lot, because I can be like, oh, this is either spoiler purport and I don't want any part of it. And that's so because the thing is like one of the reasons people think this is fun is because we're allowed to speculate and theorize and stuff. Well, you can't do that if you know what's going to happen.
Right.
So that would cut out a whole lot of, and we would go back to the old battle days of like mildly interesting, except for neither one of us can speculate, and that's dumb. So we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So anything that's not, so we consider fair game in our spoiler podcast anything from the books, anything that's been officially released by HBO or George Martin. So all the Hedge Knight shit, all the World of Ice, Song of Ice and Fire, preseason trailers, next time ons, that kind of stuff. Things that the creators mean for you to see as teasers.
Yeah.
All right. Nate Knoll from Tallahassee just turned 36 today and is wondering, has there been a main TV or movie character villain that should have gotten a worse fate than they did on screen? Hashtag bald lunch. How about Mellish from Saving Private Ryan? He gets to smugly kill that German that he allowed to kill the other dude and get kind of like a heroic treatment for it. And I always stuck in my craw.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Horrors of war. He wasn't really a warrior. He froze up, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of villains that get away scot-free. That doesn't happen a lot, does it?
Not scot-free, but like maybe with a disproportionate punishment for their deeds.
How about Marlo Stanfield from The Wire?
What happens to him? I don't remember.
He gets let out on the street.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. He gets a sweetheart deal from Levy, and I guess the only jeopardy is like, can he hang up the game? Can he not? You know. But that's a guy who did a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
A lot of bad things, and got off with nothing. And by extension, all of the politicians on The Wire that were like, you know, corrupt and complicit, they didn't get any punishment either. That sucked. But that's real life. That's yeah. I mean, most narrative forms of entertainment, they take care to make sure that the bad guys get punished.
Yeah.
Often in poetic ways. So it's very rare that someone comes along and doesn't get their just desserts over a long period of time.
How about the villains from The Big Short?
Yeah. Again, that's real life.
Yeah.
Frank Underwood, arguably.
Yeah, he's done
arguably a villain,
heinous shit.
and it hasn't caught up with him yet. Going on 6 seasons.
Nope.
I'm trying to think of others. It's pretty good treatment.
Yeah.
Um,
Cecily asks, thoughts on the Bright movie? It's a Netflix original. Have you seen anything
is that the one
about
with
this?
Will Smith?
I don't know.
The trailer just dropped either this morning or yesterday, and I've not
I think
gotten
it's
a
yesterday.
chance to look at it.
I haven't either. I've seen some still images from it. It looks fucking crazy.
What's it about?
Looks really
Can you give
cool.
me like do you have a sense
Humans,
of...
orcs, elves, everybody is just trying to get along.
Holy shit.
Hashtag Bright premieres on Netflix December 22nd.
Huh.
Hashtag SDCC.
Huh. Okay. No, I that was not on my radar. So I will have to watch that.
Yeah,
that
people are
trailer.
talking about it for sure.
Garth Gow, 81 from California. Lots of podcasters do the recordings remotely with their partners, like Joanna Robinson and the evil David Chin, for example. How would that change things for you two? I imagine the chemistry may be different, but also just from a business perspective, would that even be doable?
I missed the beginning of this. What is it?
Podcasters recording remotely with their partners.
Yeah, so we found out when we were talking
Shocking.
to David over Con of Thrones that he and Joanna had never met until Con of Thrones.
Right.
In person. And he records basically every podcast he's ever done remotely. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of tough to tell most of the time, aside from audio quality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if people know this, but there was a year of Bald Move where we recorded everything remotely. Mm-hmm. I think that not everything, like all the instant takes and some weeks, but I know that the majority of the weeks I actually drove up on Tuesday night because I was working remotely for an Indianapolis health insurance company, hospital network, and I was living in Cincinnati, and their only demand was I spend at least 2 days of the week in the office. So I'd drive up Tuesday morning, work all day, go to Jim's house, record get all the feedback and all the notes and stuff, and record the podcast and get those out, and then spend the night at his house, go into work the next morning, and then leave from there. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like. I feel like it would be a barrier to chemistry if you like for example, the fact that David and Joanna have the relationship they do and they've never met and it's all been remote, because what it does is it's hard with the traffic control.
Sure.
Because you've got usually a second or so delay. So by the time someone else started speaking, you could be double talking over each other, and there's all like, oh, I'm sorry. It can make things like that awkward, and just kind of, I guess, developing a rapport, especially if you're doing funny stuff.
Yeah.
That
Which
kind of
that's the
suffers.
thing that blows me away about the McElroys is they always record remote as well.
Yeah. But they're brothers, right?
The brothers, yeah. So they have an
So-
awesome rapport, but like
Right.
the comedic timing needs to be there.
Yeah.
And they nail it, and I don't know
Yeah.
how they do it remotely.
Yeah. As far as running a business, I mean, if we ever did it remotely, I think it would be tougher, but I don't think it's insurmountable. The big things, I guess, the things I'm really concerned about, like if the most time we consider this possibility is it's like I'm on East Coast time, you're on West Coast time, and it's more of like the time zone change because everything comes out on East Coast, so we got to figure out. You got to be able to see it early, and and also like you're kind of a late nighter, early or late riser, and if you're talking about Pacific time, now you're starting talking about like middle of the afternoon before we start getting like those are the things
Right.
we'd have to work out.
Yeah.
Not the podcast. It'd be like just the scheduling would be a little tougher.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you got anything over there?
Yeah. Megan Falano asks, Aaron, did you see the trailer for the new American Horror Story season called Cult? Any thoughts on the new theme or casting of Lena Dunham?
I haven't. I'm not sure about Lena Dunham. If you've listened to any of my girls' coverage in the last season on the Bald Move TV, you know that I'm very conflicted about her as a creator, a creative type. I don't think she's a bad person. I just think she's a little in a bubble sometimes. So no, I don't know. It's funny because like I thought that usually Cecily keeps me keyed in on that because she's a much bigger fan of that than I am. So I haven't had the chance to discuss that with her. But she did mention over dinner, I think last weekend, that she heard a rumor that this season's going to be more political, which like that's got me like, oh boy, like.
In that show?
And Ryan Murph. But then again, like I felt he did a bang-up job on the OJ stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And if he's going to tackle like Hurricane Katrina, which is what has been the rumor for American Crime Story, like maybe he's got a defter touch at this stuff and has got a truth that he wants to tell. And I don't know, like, but I'm excited. Like that's always a fun cover. The stuff that is a little bit lighter and where I can just kind of like open up because I really like ranting, but rarely is there a good fit. Like The Walking Dead, I get a lot of rant out, and like American Horror Story, like I can just like really vent my spleen on a character, and people will like it, and then take different. And it's a really fun loose podcast. So, moving on to Corey from New Scotland. I recently started listening to History Westeros to help satiate my Game of Thrones appetite. I just finished listening to 2 great Empire of the Dawn and Ashai episodes and learning about Sothoros. And it got me wondering, is there any other fictional world that is so immersive? There are so many things that the show doesn't even lightly touch on. Southoros, the Blackstone stuff, the 5 giant towers larger than a wall, the Third Great Race, domesticating dragons, etc., etc. So you sound like you could be described as a lore whore, such as myself.
Yeah. Sure.
There are lots of universes that have these nooks and crannies. The ones that I can think of are like Star Wars, Star Trek, Warhammer, especially the Warhammer 40K. One of the things that sucked me into Destiny is all the nooks and crannies of the lore and the things that they explore is really fascinating. I'm trying to think of what are some
I mean, Star Wars has a massive backlog of lore.
Right.
Depending on what you think about canon.
That's the problem with Star Wars is like how much of it is real.
Yeah.
Whereas like the thing that's cool about, and same thing with Star Trek, honestly, the thing that's cool about like Game of Thrones is that you have a god that's tending the universe and says, nope, this is legit.
Yeah.
Like essentially everything that you've seen or read about Game of Thrones has come from the mind of one person. So that's kind of rare when you get like stuff like Warhammer where it's just layers and layers of fucking crazy shit that people have been influenced by like people that have been influenced by the first rule book then come in and write even crazier stuff. And I don't know. Halo has got like I'm trying to think of like because what'll happen is like some weekend when I'm sick or bored, I'll go on to some random Wikia and like I gauge how long it takes for me to get out of there. Like Halo has got some pretty intense lore. I've never played Mass Effect, but Mass Effect has got some pretty intense lore.
It does, yep.
There's it's like Lord of the Rings. My God, like
right.
You can go down to Silmarillion and start and find out about the creation of the universe and the godhoods and
I think there's some
the Garden of Eden
stuff with like Predator, Alien versus Predator type stuff like that.
There you start to throw the same like what is canon and especially
right.
Now Ridley
it gets
Scott.
Real weird. Yeah. I don't know. I think it tends to be like fantasy that goes overboard on the lore.
Sure, because there's no limits.
Right, no restrictions. You can make up whatever you want.
Right.
Go back or forward as far as you want.
I got really into Magic the Gathering in a large part because of the lore and like all the Planeswalker stuff and like the things that span all the different blocks and they keep building on each other and there's you get to a card and there's like a sentence that really captures your imagination in a flavor text and so those are the ones I've enjoyed. Boy, we've really squandered our lunchtime here, Jim. We've only got like 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc Picard at drunk_Picard asks, AMD or Intel PUBG night with fans? What are your rig specs? Got that machine with the main machine we run games on is an i7 with a GTX 1080. It's a really nice, powerful machine. We just built it a few months ago. AMD or Intel, we're obviously Intel with the i7, PUBG night with fans. If we had a custom server, I'd be all over that. I just don't know how you orchestrate that with
Oh, here's something I've been wanting to do.
no server.
Now that we've blown up, I kind of want to go to some of these professional battleground guys and see if we can get like
Some time on their server.
yeah, or get like WTF Moses to like, hey, you know, to mentor you, me, and like, you know, Eric, Jesse, or Levi, or see if we can get Grins to do, because he's like the #1 Slayer guy, to do something with us during the Game of Thrones season to cross promote. But yeah, I wouldn't mind doing. I've really like Battlefield or Battlegrounds has kind of helped me get over my Destiny addiction, because I'm just really enjoying that.
Like crack helped me get over my heroin addiction.
Right? Yeah. I was stuck on meth and I discovered heroin.
Right.
So and I really dig it, and it's fun. Like, I play with my kid, I play with Jim, I play with my buddies in Seattle. Cecily's actually, she's watched me watch, and I never got into like watching streams, but I'm starting to get into watching some of these Battlefield guys streams when I'm crunching feedback and stuff. And
yeah, it's good background watching.
It is. So I don't know.
Been watching some Cinemassacre plays.
Now that we got, I feel like now that we got #1 on iTunes, we should just, it's like,
let's reach out
it's
to
that
everybody.
episode of like Rick and Morty where he sets up the anti-curse shot up across from the devil, and as soon as he wins,
oh, right,
he's like, you know, customers are coming up and asking, he's like, I'm bored, and he gets gas out and just sets the store on fire. Yeah, we're just gonna go become Twitch streamers now.
The next mountain to climb, I guess.
Yep. We're gonna just stop in the. Oh God, can you imagine if we just stopped in the middle of Game of Thrones and started becoming?
I mean, it's all downhill from here. I mean, you can't go any higher than #1 on iTunes, so it's all downhill.
We're still not #1 on some of these podcast aggregators, and I won't.
Oh, that's true. The Australian one.
That's
right.
Australian
iTunes doesn't like us.
Yeah.
13 or something there.
Yeah, we gotta throw more gadays.
I gotta start doing an accent. Is what I need to do.
Right.
Become one of them.
More emphasis on horrifying reptiles and insects
and air conditioning, eating camels.
Got to get more Bloke and Sheila up in this thing. All right, Texas Sandman from Texas. Do y'all listen to any competing Game of Thrones podcasts during the week?
I occasionally catch Cast of Kings, but most of the time, no.
This year I have not gotten to yet. Usually I go through. Usually I go through and listen to 5 or 6 just to kind of see what this guy's information's great, but their audio quality sucks. This people have got, but the chemistry, and that's the way I look at it. I'm honestly, it's like I don't do it for pleasure. I do it to see where people are potentially eating our lunch.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't do a lot of that. I should do more of it. I should be listening to a lot more TV podcasts because I don't really know what state of the art in TV podcasting is.
I do. So I will say that I always listen to Alan Sepinwall's podcast, although I still can't tell you who his fucking co-host is now.
Yeah.
And I've really gotten, even though I started off pretty rocky with my relationship with Andy Greenwald, because he hated everything I loved for like 3 solid years. Fucking True Detective season 1, shit. Yep. Season 1 of Leftovers, shit. I forget the other thing that I couldn't believe he didn't like. Anyway, I really like Chris and Andy's The Watch podcast over on The Ringer. So I do listen to those for pleasure. And I do try to get like so what'll happen is like 3 weeks from now when I got a lull, I'll go through one of those podcast threads where people are asking for recommendations, and the ones like the 5 or 6 most highly rated besides ours, I'll go through and listen to see what they're like.
The thing is, I mean, podcasting in large part comes down to chemistry and conversation, and I don't like, what does state of the art mean? To me, state of the art is like, how good is your chemistry? How good are the hosts? And
how good are they at presenting information?
How
do they integrate feedback?
The only thing I could see that would make me sit up and go, is a truly innovative, like, structural change that does a lot for the flow of the podcast.
Right.
But like, I think there's certainly value in creating, branding type audio stuff. I think there is value in production value, but it's all secondary. And so, like, if we're competing with like a binge mode or a cast of kings or something, or a podcast that will do like a lot more editing and a lot more fancy audio stuff, it all comes down to the chemistry. Like we're obviously still leading in the downloads, so how much does that stuff help?
Right.
I think it could serve to make us seem more professional. But at the end of the day, it depends on what we're trying to do.
Right.
And I think what we're trying to do is please listeners.
Right.
So.
And not go crazy.
Yeah. Not go crazy.
You got another tweet?
Sure.
Let's enter the lightning mode.
Jazzy Tsunami wants to know, how close do you guys follow what happens with San Diego Comic-Con? I didn't care, but now I check for shows and superhero movie news. I don't really follow it. That stuff tends to come out online, and I see the stories I'm interested in, so I don't follow it minute by minute.
Yeah, and I found that, like, honestly, since I discovered Reddit, I rarely get off, like, I've got my homepage tuned to where the stuff that I care about floats to the top of the page.
Yeah.
Like current events, political stuff about my favorite shows, my favorite book series. Like, I will see that stuff, so I don't feel like I have to go out and chase it. Like, Reddit's really made me lazy. 10 years ago, I had like 50 different sites that I'd go to for my weekly fixes of different stuff, and now it's just fucking Reddit.
Yeah.
It's that's
everything.
probably bad, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Hilger89, excluding the leftovers of The Wire, what do you think is the most underappreciated series you've ever watched? I'd throw in Boardwalk Empire into the ring personally. What quality shows do you think are objectively good, fail, while others succeed? Right time, right place. Man, Boardwalk Empire. Mr. X from Colorado said Deadwood. Those are two good ones. Trying to think. Because like a lot of the shows that I remember being bummed that got canceled, like Firefly.
Right.
Firefly is still amazing. It
had a second life, but its first life was not that great.
No. And there's a couple shows that I remember like being into, and they didn't get canceled, but they were a shadow of themselves. Like I really liked Earth Final Conflict, the first season, and then it's such a massive drop off in quality the second season. I was surprised.
The Expanse is one that I think is still underappreciated.
Expanse is criminally, like, I cannot believe there's a science fiction show this good and not even all the nerds are watching it.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. I was always surprised Justified didn't get a lot of love.
Yeah, that was a good show.
I feel like the first season gave people a false idea of what it would be, and then the second season of Justified is, as good as almost anything you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing, and it's also an area of Americana that doesn't get a lot of attention. Like, doesn't get treated seriously. Like poor people from Appalachia, like taken seriously as moral agents, good and evil, is interesting. So, lightning round. You got another one?
Embarrassment says, "Whatever happened to the reality show based on Cecily's Office?" I'm curious about this too. Did that ever go forward?
What was it?
There was supposed to be like a reality show based on
actually, funny. It's hilarious because I just got word yesterday about the latest development, and I can't talk about it.
Fuck.
I can't talk, but it is still lumbering. It is still lumbering towards something.
Okay,
so
it's become just a series of tweets is what they're gonna do. It's gonna be 14 tweets long, all by Patton Oswalt. It's gonna be great.
Oh, this is a great one. Adobo 1148. Do you know? I know neither of you would ever do this, but just for fun, under what circumstances would either of you be compelled to say, "Do you know who I am"? I joked with my Destiny Fire team because I got on, I think, like a day after the beta, and I jumped into the party chat, and because I haven't been on for like months, and they were like kind of giving me shit about it, and I'm like, hey, I got the #1 podcast on iTunes. I don't have to put up with this shit, and like they just laughed in my face. But
do you know who I am?
The thing is, like, that you're setting yourself up for failure. The person obviously doesn't know who you are, or you wouldn't be having the problem that could be cleaned up with, do you know who I am? So, like, I guess the only way I could see that is, like, if I
had lost my memory.
do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
I'm saying, like, I guess, like, if I was, like, invited on stage to moderate a San Diego Comic-Con panel, and I'm heading up to do that, and the security guards stop me, I might say, do you not know who I am? Like, I have this badge. It's, but yeah, it's like, that feels like that it's just a dick move. Like, even when you can legitimately pull it, and I think there are vanishing a few times where, that could be pulled and with a straight face. It's just such a dickish proposition that how could you?
Yeah. The answer is never.
Yeah.
I would never say that.
Yeah, it's not in my, like, I would be, like, if someone checked my authority, even if it's and maybe it's the being raised as Jehovah's Witness, but I'm very much like Jesus said, go show up at the bottom of sit at the bottom of the table and let the host invite you up. Don't go and, like, sit at the head of the table. I'm here, bitches, and then get smacked down.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you have one more? Because I got literally
That's
one. Okay, Jerry 23. Have there been any immediate side effects and a sudden swell of popularity coming from the Game of Thrones podcast?
Sure. A lot of offers to do stuff. A lot of offers. Not a ton of offers, but several offers from advertisers. I'm reaching out to people and potentially setting up some relationships that are gonna hopefully come to some kind of content fruition.
The feedback's ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet.
Like,
For the last 2 days, I've seen you just
I do.
cranking away on it.
I'm like, it's
Morning,
been
noon, and night.
Yeah, I do. Like, I've been dedicated. Every day I'm going to process. I'm not going to come into 500 emails I have to process in like 4 hours. Like, and I've been keeping up with it. But that's that.
Yeah.
He also had cool things like this past week's the first time I saw your analysis quoted on Reddit. It was the D&Ds didn't sign up to write Game of Thrones fan fiction. Thought it was neat to see your analysis being shared outside the immediate Bald Move community. Nice. It is cool. I've seen that a couple times. Like, it's funny because I don't participate in those communities as much as I used to. Like, back in the day when I was on Breaking Bad, the subreddit, like, a lot of like the some of the stuff that like our nicknames I saw, like people using Nazi poster boy or some of the various things that we would come up with. Yeah. So yeah, that's always makes me smile when I stumble across something like that. But yeah, I mean, ask us 2 months from now, because that's when we'll have like all the analysis, and again, hopefully this translates into club money, because we're as we explained in our financial video, a lot of our operating revenue comes from these busy times. So yeah, lots of question marks this year because Game of Thrones got moved so far into the thing. We were running a sale. We had jacked up the price of the club. There was a lot of uncertainty, but 6 to 8 weeks from now, we should have a lot more certainty, and all the signs are looking good. So yep. We have to unfortunately get going to the next thing. We have to produce this Spoiler podcast for the teeming masses. So thanks everybody for all your support. Yeah. And it really feels good to see just how, I mean, that's the other surreal thing, and I always use the word surreal, is that the people being vicariously happy for us. Yeah. And like, it's, I don't know, man. I feel like it's what, how do you talk about this? Like, it's something that everyone asks, like, oh, how do you deal with quote unquote fame and fortune, which we're not in capital fame, capital fortune by any stand, but it's starting to happen, and it's weird. It's nice, but it's also, I mean, I'm kind of a more retreat inside my head type of guy anyway, and a lot of times I'll be thinking like, man, isn't it crazy that these people that I don't know are like happy for me because I've achieved this success that makes them happy? Like, it's this virtuous circle, I guess. Yeah, I think. But it's hard to explain. It's hard to talk about without sounding like a fucking conceited douchebag. Right. So we've been like number 3 on iTunes before. I think last year we got to number 3. Did we? I thought we cracked the top 10. Or something like that. I mean, it was way up there, way farther than I thought we'd ever get. Mm-hmm. And this year, like, getting to number 1, I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. But it didn't really like. The thing that put the smile on my face was like seeing all of the reactions in the Facebook thread, right? Like reading through and just seeing everybody going, "Congratulations, you guys totally deserve this." Right. I'm glad to see you getting all the, traffic you deserve and all the D word. I'm like, deserve. Right, like, because I don't deserve shit. Sure, I put a lot of hard work and effort into it and time, but sure, I shouldn't take it for granted. Yes, and I don't, and but that was the thing, like. Seeing the people who appreciate what we do talk about how much they appreciate it in that context was the thing that really, like, I mean, Wednesday, I was smiles ear to ear all day. Like, it was amazing. Yeah. It blows my son's mind too. Yeah. Because I think he also sees that, and he thinks 2 generations of Hubbards with minds blown. I think he extrapolates that than more than it is, So, I don't know, because it's like, I have these, it's like, yes, Daddy is #1 on iTunes, but yes, we are also still broke.
Right? No, we cannot.
No, you cannot get 2 video games on Steam this week.
Right.
No, we cannot go out to eat. We have to cook at home. Like that's the things, like how.
Ask Audible if you can get that video
right,
game.
yeah.
Ask
That's
stamps.com if you
That's
can
right.
get that video
That's
game.
right. I'd film him with big puppy dog eyes.
Right.
Can you spare money for Take on Mars for this young boy who has
I have Take on
who
Mars.
has 1,000 times more
think.
entertainment options at his fingertips than I ever did as a kid,
Right.
and I had 1,000 more than my dad, who had 1,000 more than his dad, and
Yep.
back in the caveman days, your entertainment was starving and getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers. It's all gone uphill since from there. So anyway, we got to go.
Yep.
We really got to go. Thanks for joining us for lunch. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff coming out next week. I hope we can get, because Reservoir Dogs is our next commission podcast. I hope we can get that going. We also have the Atomic Blonde, and a couple other behind-the-scenes stuff that we're trying to put together. I did the podcast with Shane Bowman about the Twin Peaks, which is probably coming out this next week. But have a great weekend, guys.
Yep.
And we will see you back next week.
See you then.
Bye.